So here's the first big question. Is the Bible a green book? Meaning, does it have ecological content? Well, For a long time, theologians resisted to that. The main criticism has been, and for some it still is, it's an anachronism to think that the Bible talks about the environment. There was no climate crisis. There was no ozone depletion. There was no soil or water pollution from chemical contaminants. There were no microplastics, no traces of medicine in drinking water. So all of these preoccupations we have, all of these challenges, environmental challenges, were not present when the Bible was written. They weren't present socially back then. So that is fair criticism. Okay, there are also a few inconvenient passages regarding ecology in the Bible. In Genesis 8, that's at the end of the flood, Noah sacrifices a bunch of animals, which is really strange because, there was a huge flood and all of those animals disappeared. They died. And finally, on top of a mountain, all of these animals come out of the ark. And then Noah catches a few and then kills them and burns them as sacrifices after taking so good care of them during the whole time. Okay, that's kind of weird ecologically. In Psalm 115, God gives the earth to humans. It's one of the only times we see that expression. But still, it's written in the Bible, so we have to deal with that. In Mark 11, Jesus curses a fig tree. And the fig tree didn't do anything to deserve it. It wasn't even the season to have figs. So what is that doing there? And even in the second letter from Peter, the earth will be destroyed by fire. And that's causing quite many problems with the interpretation from certain fringes of Christianity who believe that, hey, if we're destroying the earth, that's not a problem because God's going to destroy whatever's left. That passage needs to be, we need to be more attentive to it for a better interpretation. And we'll get back to that further in the presentation. But anyway, we have to recognize there are passages that are very inconvenient when it comes to ecology. Just the number of sacrifices of animals that we see in there. So it's been my experience that if I take all of these passages, the good, the bad, and put them on a scale, this is pretty much what I get. It tips much more towards the fact that more passages are written for a responsible ecological ethic, and much less passages lean towards a strong domination over creatures. We've given lots of emphasis on those ones, but it's not mainly what the Bible's telling us. It's mostly ecological. Okay, you've probably seen the NRSV translation of the Bible, called the Green Bible. So why did they choose NRSV? For ecumenical purposes. It's usually published as the Protestant version with 66 books. And in there are more than 1,000 green verses. And usually a Protestant Bible has around 31,000 verses in it. Why am I talking about a Protestant version of the Bible? Is simply because Catholic Bibles and Orthodox even have more books added to it. So there you go. So more than 1,000 green verses on 31,000 verses. And we have to admit, the Bible talks about lots of things. It talks about God, talks about rituals, talks about the poor, talks about so many different situations that are, some teachings are more moral, some of the ones are more mystical. So Still, to have more than 1,000 green verses in the Bible, that's quite amazing. The ecological crisis is caused by our disconnect with nature. And here's where it gets interesting, because the Bible offers many examples of the relationship between humans and nature, as well as God with nature directly. The people of Israel were originally nomads, and then were mainly shepherds, farmers, wine growers, as well as fishermen. So all of these people are constantly in contact with the elements of nature and ask a bunch of existential questions and come up with these inspirations that we find in the Bible for this relationship we should be having with creation. So the Bible leaves us with an environmental ethic to rediscover.